I could rave, I could tell you how frustrated I am and how I can't believe that I have to watch all of this stuff. But ultimately, I don't care about Star Wars.
I mean, your bottom line certainly does. I don't care about Star Wars, but let's see what the last videos are. The Acolyte, time to admit the truth. The Acolyte disaster, episode 3 will end it. Fans reject the Acolyte. Everyone hates the Acolyte. Star Wars is gay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. 5 in a row. Graphic design is my passion. Apparently it's not Geeks and Gamers. I don't know if you've seen Geeks and Gamers' latest like string of thumbnails. Check this out. Boom, boom, boom. So 3 in a row, literally just the exact same. Just zoomed in a little bit. In this one, they didn't even bother changing it. It's literally the exact same, the same thumbnail. Then here, they at least put a different graphic in the square, and then a different graphic in the square here. But this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who's ever fleecing Geeks and Gamers as their thumbnail designer? That's praxis. You're doing a great job. If you're getting paid well from these fucking right-wing assholes, that's amazing. Well done. You did it.
There's a lot of different ways I could open up this video talking about the Acolyte episode 3. We could talk about how terrible the episode was, because it is. We could talk about how damaging this episode was to Star Wars, because it is. I could rant.
I'll try to do this as spoiler-free as possible, but I think people who don't watch Star Wars and aren't into the TV shows themselves probably don't really care either way. If you're not familiar, this Star Wars series that just came out, The Acolyte, was billed to me, especially by the right-wing pundits, as the gayest Star Wars that's ever existed. Because of a joke that was made between, you know, the showrunner, one of the actors, and you know, someone interviewing them, being like, so I've heard this is the gay Star Wars. Oh yeah, it's pretty damn gay. So I went into it, and the whole reason I watched it is because I was expecting a whole bunch of gay shit. You know, space twinks, zero-G bottoms, stuff like that, massive space orgies. There's nothing. There's like, I was just like, you know, searching left and right. I was expanding my view upon the entire galaxy. I could not see a single iota of what they consider to be gay. And I was just like, but is the bar so low? Is it so low? Because you don't even know the gender of all the characters. And so maybe the characters are somehow gay for each other, I guess. Maybe I have to look into the character lore more for each one. There's a scene in the first episode where there's like a shirtless character, and one of the other characters is like, put your shirt on. But that was it. Was that gay? Did I just see the gay? Was that the super gay thing? Honestly, there's really nothing at all gay. It's very Star Warsy. It's very Star Warsy. What it is, though, is it does have women, as I would say most of the prominent cast, most of the leads are women, except for the, of course, you know, older Jedi, who is, you know, not a woman or female presenting. So maybe that's it. Is it just having lots of, okay, so if you wanted just a quick little recap, episode 3 was the one that all the hype was surrounding, where they were like, this show's the worst show ever. It's the gay Star Wars. They ruined it. They made it gay, you know? And then I watched it and it was not gay at all. So it's like, I just don't know what y'all are mad about. But they waited because they kind of, you know, shot their wad right away. And so they were kind of building up to this. And episode 3 was where it gets super, super woke. DEI, gay as fuck, you know, you just wait, you wait until you see episode 3. Episode 3 was the one that apparently destroyed the entirety of the Star Wars universe. So I watched episode 3, and I didn't see anything gay at all. Are covenants gay? Just covenants of women? Are witches gay? Just like a group of a lot of women who run a group of witches that raised a couple children. Is that gay because it's women raising kids, maybe, or trying to anyway? Was that the gayness of it? There's a lot of women of color who are in prominent positions of power, even within the covenant. The leader is a black woman. Was that woke? Perhaps. Again, I was watching this really thinking, because of all the hype behind it, that there had to be something about, like, I assumed there was just going to be some moment where, like, you know, one of the kids is like, you know, I keep being told that I'm a little girl, but I sometimes feel like a boy. And then someone was going to be like, well, let me check your midichlorians. And then it turns out that this is, in fact, a young boy. Yes, we can detect that using the Force. You can use the Force to tell whether someone is cis or trans. You can, yes. And that same person is attracted to people of the same sex. Well, let's check the midichlorians again. Yes, it turns out. So they're gay and trans. They are indeed. Yes. Star Wars. Like, you know, for the amount of fucking rage that was coming out about this, for the anger. Now, what I think it actually is pissing people off about is the concept that maybe the Jedis aren't always the good guys. Okay. You mean the noble group of celibate space wizard monks who control and try to bring balance to the Force across the universe, who sometimes work a little too in conjunction, I would say, with the monarchy. And maybe that could be their failing. It certainly was explored in the prequels. It's been explored in a lot of other Star Wars series. It's certainly something which you could point towards. Yeah, maybe you're getting a little too close to the Federation, you know, like that kind of stuff. I just maybe, but like, okay, interesting. It like that. Again, Star Wars fans probably already knew all that. The very concept of, again, this benevolent group of you know, monks traveling the universe that have authority to be able to test any child they come across to find out whether or not they join the Jedi Order. And then if they do pass these tests, they're allowed to take children from their parents of any planet to bring them back to become Jedis to join the Order itself. I mean, yeah, in this imaginary world, that does seem a little bit weird as well. I don't necessarily think they like. Does every movie and everything and book and novel and fantasy and sci-fi, does it just have to have good guys are good and bad guys are bad? And that's the story. We have an arc. It's a good guy, and he's a good guy, you know, because he's dressed in good guy clothing, and those are the bad guys. You know they're bad because they're dressed in bad guy clothing, and then they're gonna have some laser battles and some lightsabers and stuff like that. Yeah, they're a religion as well. Again, this religious order of benevolent space monks who travel the galaxy, who can literally test any child they want on any planet, and then if they are approved and they show promise to be promising in their use of the Force, then they have to be tutorialed, because if they don't, they could go Sith. You know, it's either Sith or Jedi, and if they go Sith, they're going to be all part of this whole space genocide thing, as the Sith are known to do. So you know the Sith are bad. They're interested in space genocide all the time, so the Sith are the bad guys. All right, fine. But also it's complicated. You know, I mean, yeah, the Jedi aren't the Sith. They're not trying to do the space genocide, but you know, the amount of power that they just have as an organization, can that not be questioned? If you have an entire galaxy worth of worlds and you have all these new groups that maybe regular Star Wars fans aren't familiar with, like an order of witches who also are capable of using Force manipulation, but not being done so within the Jedi Order, which is forbidden. Understood, because again, it does seem a little dictatorial that they're the only ones who are allowed to use the Force. But either way, so would it not be interesting from the POV for the first time of what if you saw this group of women who were, again, trying to raise people in their own order suddenly have encounters with Jedis? And then when they meet the Jedis are obviously like, well, we have the ability to test the children that you're not supposed to have and look to see whether or not they have Force powers. And if they do, well, we can take them, because that's the rule. And then you're like, okay, interesting. Again, I'm completely fine with storylines that actually expand upon an original concept. That's the whole point of having a shared universe and having multiple authors and writers. There's novelists who write Star Wars novels, of which I'll never know the true plot, but there's tons of them. There's you know, entire animated series. I haven't watched the Clone Wars animated series, but like, people love them. They say they're incredible, and there's an entire lore that goes in there. And I'm like, who am I to take away from someone who's like, oh, they made an episode where there was a good Sith? And I was like, okay, but they're not allowed to do that. The Sith are evil, always. But that would be neat to see if there was a Sith who was questioning, you know, their allegiance either to their family or friends, and they didn't know if they wanted to go completely to the dark side. That whole arc is kind of interesting to me, to see the struggle. I don't know. But apparently Star Wars Episode 3, The Acolyte, has ruined all of Star Wars forever.
I could rave, I could tell you how frustrated I am and how I can't believe that I have to watch all of this stuff. But ultimately, I don't care about Star Wars. I haven't cared about...
Well, I know. But, I mean, your bottom line certainly does. I don't care about Star Wars. But let's see what the last videos are. The Acolyte, time to admit the truth. The Acolyte disaster. Episode 3 will end it. Fans reject the Acolyte. Everyone hates the Acolyte. Star Wars is gay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. 5 in a row.
I haven't cared about Star Wars for a long time. So I'm not really in a place where they're going to get any emotion from me. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm not frustrated. It's just pure laughable at this point to me, because I've been talking about this stuff since early 2018. And there were even other people before then that were frustrated with The Force Awakens, mainly for different reasons, but ultimately they saw the destruction of Star Wars by Disney. A lot of people didn't see the identity politics and the social justice pandering that then became clear after The Last Jedi to so many people.
We hadn't learned how to monetize and weaponize our racism quite as much back then. The misogyny it wasn't what it is now. Now we know exactly what to do. Now we can see it instantaneously. If there's a movie or a TV show and there's a black woman, that's bad. Okay, if there's a woman who's a protagonist who's got more than like a side character and she's not super hot, also bad. Those okay, so those are the bad things. That's forced diversity, that's wokeism, that's DEI, that's bridge, that's all the things that we're now we know to call it out when we seize it. But back then, yeah, maybe some of us were ready to just enjoy a movie. What a different time that was. Yeah, seems so long ago, you know, a galaxy, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We were able to sit back and be like, oh, this is entertaining. Yeah, oh, that's neat. They're actually showing the POV from one of the stormtroopers. You don't often see that. And it's the stormtrooper who's actually questioning whether or not what he's doing is right as he's witnessing the stormtroopers kind of do imperialism. And then he himself was actually taken, as a lot of the young stormtroopers are, away from his own planet and then forced to become a stormtrooper. And then he can have just a whole moral battle. This is neat. Yeah. Oh, but the guy's black. Oh, wait, why is that bad? It's woke. Oh, wait, what's wrong with that? It's forced. It's forced because normally that stormtrooper would have been a white guy in The Force Awakens, but because of DEI hiring, they wrote him in as a black character. That's the problem, right? It does sound like you just don't like black people, though, because otherwise, why would you think this way? Because again, it didn't bug you before, as the show is clearly pointed out. We didn't really realize at that point what exactly was happening. We hadn't really found a way to vocalize our racism, but now we have, and we found a way to mask it too, and not come across as as creepy as we are.
And I still had hope after The Last Jedi. I still had hope that things could be turned around if enough Star Wars fans were frustrated. I thought, man, if enough people are this frustrated with this, then Disney's going to have to listen at some point. That's what I thought in my very naive mind after the Rise of Skywalker.
Hey, Letterhack, good to see you. I want to check out Letterhack. Oh, and Mozart is here too. Check out Mozart as well.
Skywalker and the failure that was Rise of Skywalker, losing 50% of the audience, I realized they're never going to change. Like, I thought at first, it was like, well, the failure's here, they're going to change, but it was clear that they were not going to change.
They literally changed the movie that came right after that to be able to appeal to you weirdos. What more do you want? They brought back J.J. Abrams to do a whole retcon thing where it's like, okay, fine, we're not going down the whole Rian Johnson road of that any single person could actually become a Jedi, and the very idea of divine family lineage is kind of fucked up and monarchistic. We're going to get rid of that and just kind of tell a story about how Rey actually came from nothing and that she could actually be someone who wields the Force with such tremendous power and doesn't need to be of a divine family lineage. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, apparently a lot of people are mad about this. It's we want the lineage, we want the family. Bring it all back. Get Palpatine. He was behind it all the whole time. It was Palpatine, you see. He didn't actually die at the end of that original trilogy, so we kind of invalidate a lot of the severity of what Darth Vader did in sacrificing his own life in order to kill Palpatine, but turns out he didn't actually kill him, so yeah, that's too bad. But either way, so he's actually secretly zombie Palpatine, and he was behind it all. And so guess what? You don't have to be scared anymore, everyone. No new ideas. No new ideas at all. We're just going to give you exactly what you want. Here's your slop. And you got your slop, and you still weren't happy. Because it wasn't about that, was it? It was never about that. It wasn't about Star Wars.
And yes, we still had things that might have been enjoyable. Mandalorian. I really liked Season 7 of the Clone Wars. But there was a disease within Disney, within Lucasfilm. And they were not working on curing that disease. They were working on making that disease even worse and worse along the way. And I think that The Acolyte is the culmination of everything Disney Star Wars. This episode in particular, holy shit, they took it to another level. It's absolutely laughable in every single possible way. There is not one single element of this episode or this series that is redeemable or enjoyable. Nothing.
Okay, so if you want a review of the third episode from someone who could critique it from a place of I don't actually get offended by seeing people of color in films and I actually like diversity, the child acting isn't superb, and it can be distracting at a couple moments in the episode, especially with the severity of what they're trying to convey and the seriousness of it. That becomes a little difficult, although it wavers. There are times when the child actor is actually quite decent, and then all of a sudden it falls again. That would be one of my critiques. Also, the pacing of it for the third episode is quite uneven, especially as it is a world-building episode. It takes place in the past, and so of course you have to try and do as much and squeeze as much information as you can into a sequence. But in terms of an overall Star Wars episode, there's absolutely nothing in any way, shape, or form to be offended of. You don't have to be afraid. It's not gay at all. But there's like, I was searching far and wide for this gayness that I was told so much about. And again, if it's just a covenant of witches in and of itself is gay, okay, that I guess, yes, it is very gay. There's a covenant of witches, and it's true. They're not all white women. A lot of them are not white women, so there's that too. Maybe that's gay. I don't even know what's gay to straight people anymore. It's honestly, I'm just so fucking confused. But then outside of that, it does exactly what you'd expect it to do. I personally, I'm not as gripped by this particular story, because I've seen it done in a variety of other ways and done better. But in terms, it just seems like, again, a very passable, generic Star Wars TV show that has none of the problems they're talking about. It's interesting to play with lore. It's interesting to defy expectations. It's interesting to come from a perspective of, hey, by the way, maybe the Jedi are not benevolent heroes that you would think they are, just because you enjoyed the original trilogy way back in the day. Maybe it'd be interesting to think of the implications, like galaxy-wide, of again having an order of individuals who have such supreme power over the most powerful possible force, literally called the Force, in existence in this world. You know, Coven.
And you even have Forbes here writing this article that says The Acolyte Episode 3 review, one of the worst Star Wars episodes ever made.
And if you go through that article, does it talk about because it has a black woman in it? Does it talk because there's women, because women are in prominent roles? Because an Asian man is like the Jedi Master? Does it talk about that? Or does it talk about how maybe plot-wise, mechanics-wise, acting-wise, they didn't like it? I'm going to guess it's the second part.
Now, if you've seen the Clone Wars, and I have, and I very much enjoyed the Clone Wars, there were some terrible episodes of the Clone Wars. There were some really bad episodes of Rebels. Now, I haven't seen all the live action stuff, but this episode takes it to a whole nother level, and it's what Star Wars fans deserve. And what I mean by that is, if you're still hanging on...
Catalina Gearbox, thanks for the 200 biddies. I think the Force is a parasitic organism that's applied against the dark in order to reproduce. I don't like giving in to the idea that midichlorians are part of the lore. I ignore them. There's no such thing. There's not small little teeny microorganisms that show us how much force power someone has or not. I'm just a prequels hater. I know, it gets people angry. Episode 3 of Disney's newest Star Wars series, The Acolyte introduces a new group of Force users to the galaxy, sparking backlash for some fans who accuse the series of breaking canon. On Rotten Tomatoes, the show's favorable critic score. It's so bizarre to me, though, that in a complete universe where the Force is pervasive, it's in all things. We're told that often by Jedi Masters, right? The Force is all around us, surrounding us, powering us, all that kind of stuff, that other people wouldn't be able to wield it in any capacity outside of just the two extremes, the genocidal Sith or the religious monkish Jedis. Those are the only two people who can wield it in any way, shape, or form. If you break from that... I thought the first few episodes were solid, good, not spectacular. I cannot fathom this audience response. There's simply nothing in the show itself, in my opinion, that merits this level of hate. Episode 3 of The Acolyte, titled Destiny, explores the backstory of the twin protagonists, Osha and May, both played by Almendla Stenberg, showing how the two were raised in a cult-like coven of witches on the planet Brendok before being separated after a disruptive Jedi intervention. The witches view the Force differently from the Jedi, dubbing it the thread, and seemingly viewing it as something that cannot be controlled, only pulled in a certain direction. The idea of different religions inspired by the Force is isn't new to the franchise, but the Acolyte is the first time splintering Star Wars belief systems that have been shown in live action. In an all-female coven, the question about who fathered the twins gives way to a surprising answer. It was the Force, divine birth. Like Anakin Skywalker, the twins appear to be the result of an immaculate conception carried on in turn by their mother Coral. Unlike Anakin, who is canonically created by an unknowable will of the Force, the twins appear to have the result of some kind of experiment, Mother Anastasia claiming credit for their creation. After the Jedi asked the Force to test the Force-sensitive twins, the growing rift between the two children widens, with Osha seeking to join the Jedi and May demanding to stay in the Coven. While the witches lean toward the dark side of the Force, the Jedi don't seem to be on the right side of history. They radiate with sinister vibes, politely insisting that they have Force-given right to take the twins away from their home planet. They might not force the children to come, but they do pressure them. One even hands Osha a lightsaber, as though the deadly blade is a toy. In a disorienting plot twist, the entire Coven of witches appear to die from a fire that May started by accident. It's obvious that there's another side to the story, but it's too early to draw conclusions. First off, there's the anti-woke fans and content creators who dislike the show's diverse cast and LGBTQ+ themes, claiming that the franchise is booting their male fan base. This segment from fandom has been stoking culture war grievances since The Last Jedi, with melodramatic critique and fanatic thumbnails of anti-woke YouTubers being something of a meme at this point. George Lucas horrified. Repetitive identity fixations aside, some Star Wars fans have accused the Acolyte of breaking canon and reducing the significance of Anakin Skywalker, as Anakin was believed to be uniquely conceived, his creation tied to the destiny as the chosen one fated to bring balance to the universe. Other Star Wars fans dislike the way that the Jedi have been portrayed, as the series appears to be questioning the moral authority and competence of the space monks. However, this nuanced critical view of the Jedi is far from a new development and has been introduced by George Lucas in the prequels. The Jedi are explicitly flawed. I swear some of y'all watched the Clone Wars and the prequels with your eyes closed. The Jedis are the good guys, the end.
I'm a Jedi, like my father before me.
That's your proof? He said it. He's a Jedi. They're good. The most important part of being a Star Wars fan is, of course, bitterly complaining about Star Wars. Also true. Here's the thing. If you ever look at the wonderful world of fandoms and fan-created art, whether they be the Sonic expanded universe that goes well beyond simply people making comic books, there's cartoons, there's music, there's video games, there's all kinds of things that people create. Same thing with Undertale, right? There's Undertale universes within universes. There's Undertale universes where people have created entirely new Undertale games that are based in some kind of different timeline that didn't exist in the first game, but it's a specific timeline that, has these kind of dark shadowy versions of some of the characters. Well, that own universe that's fan fiction created has a series of universes within its universe that people have actually created full titles for, as in they've created full video games start to finish. They've coded, they programmed, they made music, they made characters, they've done art, and they've spent hours and hours and hours world building into, again, a thing within a thing within a thing that's so far removed from my actual understanding of the original that it's wild to me. But there's a beauty to that. There's a beauty in the fact that human beings can care about properties that they didn't originally come up with the concept. They didn't invent the Undertale video game, but they've taken it and they've run with it and they've used their own creative juice to be able to create all this new shit out of it. And none of it is obviously marketable under capitalism. Capitalism has copyright and copyright law, so you can't do that kind of shit. But you can see what people can do when they play with it. And there's tons of fan fiction for Star Wars, just like any other universe. Tons of fan comic books, fan video games, fan books, fan stuff like that. And ultimately, I think that's a beautiful thing. I think you should be allowed to do that. I think that people should be able to expand upon the very concept of the original lore and play with it. People get real big mad though when it happens to be their beloved franchise and they somehow think that you are destroying their childhood in the process, right? If you take the idea of the chosen one, he says it in the movie, you were the chosen one, but he wasn't the real chosen one. It turned out he was going to turn to the dark. But it says it in the movie, so it's an important thing, We got to defend that. I got to make sure that people know that he's the chosen one. No one can fuck with this. Then, honestly, I think it'll lead to darkness. Honestly, this is the path to the dark side. What are the stages? Yoda says, he's like, sadness will give way to anger, and anger will give you're past the sadness part and you're giving in to absolute anger. For me, I love the original Star Wars series, and I do enjoy some of the new TV shows, some of the new movies, and there's parts of the prequels that, of course, like anyone else, I enjoy. Qui-Gon Jinn is quite good. The dual lightsaber battle is the best lightsaber battle in Star Wars. I can say some good things about some of the prequels for sure, even if I don't like them. But yeah, ultimately, I understand that I have no control over Disney. I never will, and I won't be able to alter the Star Wars universe. So if I genuinely sat back and said that they were destroying the new Star Wars movies, well, there's nothing I can do about that. I will never be able to prevent them from doing this. And ultimately, it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the original trilogy. I still love the original trilogy, flaws and all, for what it is. You know, I happen to love a lot of parts of it. They were the parts of my childhood, and they won't take that away from me. Even if they re-release the trilogy and they've completely changed everything, that's cool. I still have the original one, you know? Even if it's like, well, they're going to remake the original Star Wars trilogy. They probably will, by the way. Mark my words. You count down. At some point, it's getting rebooted. Everything gets rebooted. Everything gets remade. So they probably will just remake the original Star Wars trilogy. Gonna get a whole new Han Solo, a whole new Lando, a whole new Luke, whole new Chewbacca. It's gonna happen, okay? Giddy up. But, you know, when that happens, I'm not going to be sitting there being like, oh, but they wokeified it. They made Han Solo less rapey. You know, that was part of his character, was that he knows that she's saying no in this love scene, and then he just wears her down, and then she realizes she loves him. That has to be part of my original Han Solo. I could go watch the original one. I could enjoy myself. You know, you can make fun of how you think they're destroying modern day Star Wars with new canon and new characters. I love to admit when I'm wrong. I'm enjoying the Acolyte. The tone feels Star Wars to me. Yes, the murder and mystery plot are obvious, but I like seeing this franchise tackle this genre. One of the biggest reasons there's so much friction within the Star Wars fandom is the clash in expectations between the old and the new fans. The series began as a simple good versus evil space opera that grew increasingly confusing and convoluted over time as moral ambiguity was introduced but not thoroughly explored. Imagine if the black and white worldview of Narnia series was clumsily injected into philosophy of Game of Thrones halfway through the story and never quite managed to strike that tone. That's where Star Wars is. The Acolyte experimenting with the limited moral ambiguity. This is what you could make an actual discussion about. Is what they're doing. They might be playing again with the moral ambiguity of, are the Jedi benevolent? Fine. What does that have to do with gay? Where's the gay? I want my gay. I was promised gay Star Wars. I've had no gay. Absolutely none. Yes, fine, there's just different colored lightsabers. That's not gay. Rainbows aren't gay. It's just refracted light people, you know? A shirtless, male-presenting looking character being told to put a shirt on is not gay. If someone was like, ooh, nice, can I rub some space juice all over that and then we see what happens? Maybe that could be gay. I don't know. Depends who's saying it. But again, it's not exactly like in that moment in time. I'm watching it like, oh my God, whoa, they were right. Star Wars went hella gay.
For dear life, to this absolute corpse of a franchise, you deserved episode 3 of The Acolyte. Or if you're pretending that you enjoy this because Disney gives you your access, you deserve this episode. Or if you're just one of the social justice freaks that never liked Star Wars to begin with until Disney added diversity for the first time, you deserve this episode. So ultimately, if you are checked out on Star Wars like I have been for so long, this episode's not going to bother you. It's laughable. It's horrible. It's unbelievable. But do you know who?
So who are you marketing this to then? Because, I mean, pretty sage advice. Hey, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't, you know, get invested in it. I agree. Yeah, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't be invested in it. Just that. But this is your 5th video in a row on the exact topic. I would argue you do care. Either you do care or there's people in your audience who care enough for you to have a financial incentive to keep making videos on this same topic over and over and over again.
George's apprentice, all of everything that George stood for, everything that he was taught, he has abandoned it. Now, there's many of people out there that will tell you they've known Dave Filoni was a piece of shit for a long time, and that's fine. I'm not something. Force-using witches are also apparently frowned upon in the galaxy. They call the Force the thread. I'm getting dark side vibes here, though I'm also getting the sense that this show will try to...
Isn't that interesting though? This show doesn't try and hide it. It's like, yeah, they're portrayed as being like somewhat evil, and they kind of seem a little bit evil, but at the same time they seem to have love and care for each other, and it is like a coven of women. So at the end of the day, that's interesting too. And yeah, they are playing with the Force and they can use it, but they use it in quite different ways. That's interesting. I don't need to see the same thing every single time. So in Star Wars, there's one of two people who can use the Force. That's the Jedi and the Sith. And then those are also in the direction of the two forces, good and dark, light and darkness. And so good guys are the Jedi, and they use the light side of the Force. And that includes a series of powers. And the bad guys are the Sith. They're genocidal. They use the dark side of the Force. Also includes some of the same powers. There's some overlap. They can do the whole Force push and stuff like that. But the dark side of the Force can also use like the electricity, because that's kind of evilish, right? So you like that, they can do that, and the Jedis don't do that. Now they're above it, but the Jedis also, like, they control your brain, which, I mean, on its surface does seem evil, not exactly like the most noble thing to basically without consent control someone's thoughts and feelings and mind, and they can do whatever they want them to do, right? And they just wave their hand and say something, and that person's like, I'm going to do exactly what you told me to do. That good guys, though, the good guys do that again. So this is the dynamic, and that's Star Wars, the whole space opera laid before you.
To be all edgy and make the Jedi out to be the bad guys, which we've seen play out about half a dozen times.
So, I mean, they're one of like a never-ending amount. There's so many.
I think it's safe to say that everybody
got
hates the Acolyte, and season 1, episode 3. Sorry, I'll phrase that. The only season this show's ever gonna get, episode 3, was an absolute unmitigated disaster, which has been mocked the internet over. So, let's join in.
This pretty much encapsulates this person in a single photo for me. Just constantly like, oh, I got to be mad today about a thing I care so much about. I thought he hate pronouns and Star Wars.
AKA our own Steph from Geeks and Gamers, as she posted this thick-necked bitch just ruined. No. This.
But I don't get it. There's nothing gay. They don't talk about like same-sex attraction. They don't talk about how there's cis and trans people in the universe. I mean, like, Abigail Thorne's in it. She happens to be a trans woman, but, like, she's playing a character in the show. She's not talking about trans issues. She's not talking about trans rights. She just plays a character in the series. I don't get it. If some of the actors are gay, is that gay? Does that make the whole series gay? Again, I keep being told about this. I've yet to see anything gay in the show.
Wow, 8 minutes into the Acolyte redemption, but they
So he just looks at memes.
Number of 2, the power of many, actually refer to, oh, I understand this reference. Even shots of
seriously? Again, the reach. It's like, so by the thread, they're talking about how they're more powerful if they all, you know, work together as a commune. So again, it's kind of like not just the power of one, the power of us. You could say that it's fingering, it's finger blasting. It's about lesbians finger blasting each other. That's what it was. There's the gay, everybody.
Star Wars Theory, one of, if not the biggest Star Wars channel on YouTube. Just say Star Wars we got.
Oh, okay, so this is it. It's the lesbian witch force impregnation. Okay. Again, the reach for things to be mad about and to be angry about is just so far beyond me now. I kept looking for the gay, but I guess that was the gay. Y'all were right. It was that a couple of the witches did a forced impregnation ceremony, and that makes them lesbians. Which, again, why? There's not a single one of them in the coven who's like, I am attracted to you because you're a woman. I, too, am attracted to you because you're a woman. That would make us lesbians. It would, yes, by definition. We are lesbians. We are lesbians. All hail the lesbians. Yes, the lesbian witch coven. We did it. No, it's not it's not sexy. This sequence, I'm not watching like, oh, wow, we're getting some lesbian action, boys. Here we go. I guess clearly I'm alone on that, though.
What the hell is even that? The great Ricky Berwick also got in on the action.
Yay! Star Wars Acolyte!
interactions, 10,000 likes. Personal lesbon, 4 points.
So
Personal
the Acolyte, just 2 strong females, the force to make a child. You can get it. You can get it. Cool. We got lesbians. So that's, again, wild to me, because I was watching that sequence and I was not thinking that this was sexual. You know, it seemed very cult-like. It seemed like a cult ceremony, some kind of, you know, again, yeah, when you would expect witches to do, where they are, again, conjuring a soul into someone else's body. Like, I don't watch Shang Tsung and fucking get off, you know? It's like, your soul is mine. And I was like, whoa, holy shit, hell yeah, do him next. Yeah, no, but dude, slowly. Dude's, yeah, oh, nice, yeah, oh, pull that soul out, ooh, baby, nice, hell yeah.
And hopefully, along the way, give ourselves...
All of you have gooner brain. Honestly, gooning has rotten their minds. You know, their once fragile brains are just destroyed by the goonage at this point. You just view the entire world through the lens of gooning. You know, women's only value is their sexuality to you. And then every single sequence, even if it happens to be an immaculate conception through a fucking witch coven, yeah, that apparently is... That was some lesbian action. Star Wars got real gay. They did a whole lesbian birth. Yeah, so just so you know, that's super gay.
A wee bit of entertainment, something that Disney Star Wars is not.
Make it gay again. Make it gay for the first time. I know the C-3PO and all that kind of stuff, but like honestly.
Another day, another chance to witness the horrific spectacle of Disney prodding and kicking the bloated corpse of Star Carrie-Anne Moss back in action and, never mind. Character and human female with her hair in braids. Now, in a galaxy
y'all are giving it away. Honestly, it's space, infinite possibilities. You could be anything, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, this one character they have braids, so the character has dreadlocks. That's just DEI. That's woke. Okay, obviously in space, no one would have that hairstyle. We all know there's only one possible way to wear hair.
Thousands of colonized planets of traveling to. They know this because they picked up the escaped prisoners from the strong female antagonist is definitely dead because he saw her die in a fire when she was a kid. So strong female character number 1 is the only person who could possibly
Acolyte feeling. You know what's so funny about all this? I'm just here to laugh at the meltdowns because, like, honestly, I have no love for Disney. If it's a war between the right and Disney, as it has been for a while, let them fight. Keep going at it. Let them fight. Let them fight. I'm more curious about what the fuck they thought was gay about any of this. But now I know. It's the immaculate, apparently, what they think is some just hot lesbian action taking place.
Look and see the Anakin blowing
levels of copium, trying to justify why actually, even though very few people have watched the show and many who have watched it don't like it.
Why do you keep saying that? Give me numbers, okay? You keep saying like, oh, this is the end for Star Wars. I've heard that after like 5 of the last fucking Star Wars shows. Every time a new Star Wars series comes out, it's like, hey, by the way, Star Wars is done. They're tanked. They're done. So it turns out those movies in theaters like are like the top 10 grossing films of the year. So what are we doing here? I mean, it looks like they went woke and they went fucking rich as fuck. Like, I don't know the streaming numbers for Disney's proprietary streaming service. I don't know if they're not transparent like Netflix, but is that the case? Has this series absolutely bombed for the series? No one's watching it. All the fans hate it. Because I know, like, the right-wingers don't like it. For different reasons.
It's a huge smashing success, and you're all just racist and sexist if you disagree. If you will, allow me to bring your attention to the Rotten Tomatoes Acolyte page, because here we have something very interesting happening. You see, the show currently has an admittedly impressive 90% tomato meter score, which, as we all know, means that out of professional critics who have reviewed the show, 90% of them have reviewed.
The Acolyte, according to IMDb, is the top streaming show on Disney Plus in 2024. It didn't do as good as Ashoka. Instead of 14 million views in its first 5 days, it got 11 million. What are we doing here? It's all just manufactured nonsense. All of it. All of it, from the top on down. You know? Y'all promised me a good time. Thought I was gonna get to see some fucking space orgies, space jizz, and gay shit all over the place. Nothing. Nothing. I was denied.
it positively, which is a good number, nice and high. But conversely, when we
Thank
look
you,
at
Catalina
the
Gearbox.
audience score, we see that only 27% of audience members who have actually taken the time to review the show have thought it was good. Now, as someone who has followed the
And what does that mean? It's not science. And any single time you want, you can do a campaign like this. I know this because they keep doing this. It's like, okay, my friends, it has happened again. The fans are rejecting it, and you all listened. We said last week that we were going to do this. We were all going to do a massive downvote, and we did it, and we succeeded. But this is the fans talking.
conversation surrounding between the audience who have seen this show, let's be real. But according to the Mary Sue, no, it's not us professional critics.
Have you watched it? Did you have any opinions? Are you a Star Wars fan? Do you know anything about the Star Wars canon? Is this taking anything away from you? Is this adding to the Star Wars canon? Does it annoy you? Or are you just taking your opinions from all of the other right-wing racist weirdos that you hang out with all the time? Oh yes, the team at Nerdotic are really upset about this, and I'm here to say that I probably agree. I'm not entirely sure. But...
Right, The Acolyte has received overwhelmingly positive reviews from critics.
Oh, you mean people who review movies based on whether or not they actually have any value as a film or TV show? Okay. So it turns out when they kind of wanted to separate themselves from the whole, you know, fandom of the thing, it turns out that the reviewers liked it. Not always indicative of something being great. You know, reviewers can like very, very bad Oscar bait. I'm not here to say that that's a universality. But the idea that this is somehow demonstrating the fans have backlashed when, again, currently the #1 streaming film in 2024 on Disney Plus, series.
Made by a woman. Bonus points if she is gay and not white, and you have a bunch of gay, not white people in the show or the movie. It's almost guaranteed you're going to have a good review. Like, it is very rare, from what I remember, that a show that has diversity, especially put up at front in marketing and promotion, for that to be poorly reviewed by critics. Like,
what are you talking about? There's so many movies where the critics can smell it a mile away. There's a term for it. It's called Oscar bait. When people just lean way too heavily into that shit. When it's like, hey, by the way, this film, it's based on a true story, of course, and it's going to be showing you this really harrowing tale of how a black person tried to sit down at a restaurant during segregation and was denied. But then there's the valiant white savior who was sitting beside him. He's like, you know what? You can sit beside me. And then everyone's like, oh, it's like, we don't like their kind around here. You can't do that. I'm making a stand. That's right. The Stand, and then boom. And then everyone's like, yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily the worst film I've ever seen, but clearly it's pandering, it's a pandering film trying to win Oscar bait, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, no, it's not a universality. That's a very, very weird way to say it.
I'm struggling to think of one case where that's happened. Like, it's not a secret that diversity is what these access journalists care about more over quality. So no, it's not impressive that the show manages to check those boxes. So anyway, she asks, so tell me why this series has an audience score of 27%. Actually, don't tell me. It's obvious. The show is being review bombed by these so-called fans who think they know what is best for the franchise. Maybe it's actually just that fans who like the franchise don't find this entertaining.
Again, do you know anything about Star Wars? I feel like you're just basing this on what other people around you are telling you. By the way, this is what I keep referencing when I say there's like one shot of a male presenting character, because I didn't know their gender at the time. I'm not entirely sure, but shirtless, and then all of a sudden another character is like, put your shirt on. Okay. I guess that was apparently that is the gay, by the way. That's in the thumbnail.
I would hope and recommend that you do so. It's just a poorly written and uninteresting only to forcefully push the story forward or to trigger.
You're reading user reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Amazing. Incredible. So now we know. It's official, everybody.
Actually interacting with the people who are critical of the show, because if you were, you would understand that they are
and look what they're asking for. Wall Street Silver, fucking verified checkmark. The Acolyte is set 100 years before the prequels, so they could have had Yoda in the series representing the Jedi Council, giving the fans a familiar character. Instead, the lesbian director cast her wife, who can't act at all, as the Jedi Master. I mean, the main character in the show, who's more prominent, is an Asian man, but I guess, is that also problematic? Is that also kind of woke? Again, should just put Yoda in there for everything. Every Star Wars show should just be Yoda from here on out. Just, tales of Yoda, Yoda the Conqueror, Yoda how it became, Yoda's kids, Yoda and the gang get fucked.
Your character, and he is such a bad actor in this. Not only that, but like, that the people on screen, but there was so.
I mean, the lesson in all this is that Star Wars can be shitty, because it often is. Star Wars can be shitty for reasons other than the woke, other than the forced diversity, other than the message. And clearly this is one of those cases, because at the end of the day, I keep being told about how gay this show is supposed to be, and I've yet to see it. Apparently the witch coven birth impregnation sequence was super gay. I don't know what straight people think gayness is, but that's a thing. Yoda versus Dark Yoda, the Yodaning. See, okay, fine. I would watch that. I'm on board with Yoda versus Yoda.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We first want to give a shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. This program is produced thanks to the generous support of our Patreon supporters: Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbar Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multi Mondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Poppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Bomey, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demmel, Travis McClinton, and Words Greenwood. As well as every other person you see on the screen right now, this show would not be possible without them. And if you want to join these wonderful people who make this entire program possible, simply go to patreon.com/theserfs and you can unlock uncensored and bonus episodes and, you know, help us exist.